Marvel Snap's latest set of changes for over-the-air update card text changes are in, and this week we have 5 different buffs. Let's go ahead and run through what they are and talk about what I think they could mean for the metagame moving forward. Our first buff this week comes to the Absorbing Man getting increased on his stat line from 3 points of power all the way up to 5. Second, in our comments that despite Absorbing Man having an exciting effect, it's really struggled to find a home in Marvel Snap decks. They also mentioned that it has a lot of parallels to Wong, while Wong has the ability to be played out proactively, whereas Absorbing Man's a card that gets played after the fact, meaning Absorbing Man is typically enabling smaller on reveal effects. So I think the fact that you're getting smaller payoffs with this compared to Wong on average makes sense to kind of pump up his stat line a little bit. As far as where this could fit moving forward, we've got a lot of destroy synergies coming up with the card releases next month that I've reviewed before, and I think Absorbing Man has a lot of potential inside of those shells. In particular, something that's kind of novel is when you're playing Magic in your destroy deck to get to that turn 7, you can both Venom and Absorbing Man to get a second Venom effectively on that 7th and final turn of the game, adding a little bit of consistency and a big amount of power to the board now that Absorbing Man is starting with 5. Our next buff this week is the Hulkbuster going from 4 power up to 5. Second in our comments that while this card has seen fringe play in the past with things like Deadpool and Multiple Man, it basically sees no play today, which is accurate. They also observed that in addition to potentially working with Deadpool and Multiple Man again, this card also has potential with Dakin, the season pass card that's going to be coming up for August, who doubles his power. Anytime you're getting multiple uses of the stats on Hulkbuster, this 1 point buff ends up being a multiple point buff, whether it's on a man or a Deadpool or Dakin that's doubling up. I'll be interested to see if this makes this card see play. I think at the baseline, 5 points of power for 3 energy is pretty reasonable. Polaris, I think, is arguably one of the best 3 energy cards in Marvel Snap because of the rate of points of power that she provides. I think there is also an argument that perhaps if this doesn't make this card see play, you could, for flavor reasons, make a card text adjustment to Hulkbuster. It could be kind of neat, for example, if Hulkbuster made the card that it goes on not be able to be destroyed in a pretty flavorful way. Our third buff in the over-the-air update this week is Hawkeye going from +2 power to +3 on its on reveal. Getting 4 points worth of stats for just 1 energy is pretty solidly above rate, and I think there's a number of cards in Marvel Snap that can enable this card to do even more. Kitty Pryde, for example, lets you enable the on reveal effect with minimal drawback since you can deploy Kitty somewhere else the following turn. Things like Beast and Falcon can even pick Hawkeye back up to our hand and redeploy it to the board, making it go from a 1 energy 4 power play to a 2 energy 7 power play, which is just incredibly above rate. At a minimum, this card is definitely strictly better than it was previously, and it gives Cerebro 4 enjoyers hope that perhaps their meme deck could be more than a dream in the not too distant future. Our last 2 changes today go kind of hand in hand, and you'll see why in a second. But to start with Vision, we have another strict upgrade here, increasing him from a 5/7 to a 5/8. Just another observation from the second inner folks saying, hey, this card has seen fringe play in the past, but no established decks really want his effect right now. They also observed that increasing him to 8, but not going further than that, means that Vision is able to dodge Shang-Chi quite eloquently. It's also worth noting that the one deck in the metagame right now that kind of plays Vision is the Shuri deck. So a 1 point boost on Vision is a 2 point boost with Shuri, and it's a 2 point increase with Taskmaster. So having the flexibility to deploy a 16 power thing on turn 5 and slide it around the board, as well as deploying a 16 power Taskmaster, is going to give you a lot of flexibility to win games where your opponent's going to have a hard time estimating where exactly your stats are going to be on the final turn. Our final over-the-air update buff today has Captain Marvel going from a 5/6 down to a 4/5. Obvious synergy with things like Zabu aside, I really like the fact that Captain Marvel and Vision feel like different cards now. A question that often came up previously when Marvel was a 5/6 and Vision was a 5/7 is like, Jeff, when am I supposed to play Vision versus when am I supposed to play Marvel? And the cards by and large felt very similar, only with Vision letting you kind of mind game and juke people, while Captain Marvel simultaneously covered all of your paths. The fact that these cards have different energy costs means that, one, you could play them both in the same deck to have a ton of different things moving around the board, but two, they're just different styles of effects since they fit into different parts of your curve. One thing that jumps out in my mind with Captain Marvel here is including her in decks with Rescue. For example, I've liked her in the past as a card to enable Rescue's bonus, or even something like Hawkeye without fully committing to that location on the board. And at 4 energy, Captain Marvel does that even better than she does previously. One pretty astute thing that Second Dinner noted inside of this and Vision's buff is that both of these cards are effects that should be good at combating prison/lockout style decks, and a sure sign that Vision and Captain Marvel needed some love in an OTA update was the fact that Spider-Man is basically more popular than he's ever been. I called him out as the #1 deck in that Thanos lockout deck in my Conquest deck summary earlier this week, but Vision and Captain Marvel still haven't been seeing a ton of play. So in a way, the buffs to both Captain Marvel and Vision are indirect nerfs to the prison style decks that have been really popular without directly pulling any of the numbers down or adjusting any of those cards in those lockout decks. And this really encapsulates the beauty and what I love about these OTA updates. In a card game like Snap, they just have so many different knobs that they can twist and tweak and tune to push the metagame slowly and subtly, or in large ways in other directions when they want to. And they could do that in a lot of different ways, both by nerfing cards when need be, but also just by making underplayed cards that are potential counter cards like Marvel and Vision that much better. I really have to say, Second Dinner has just been nailing the implementation of these over-the-air updates. When they originally announced that they were going to be making regular changes to cards in the game, there were a lot of people that were worried that they were going to just use these to constantly knock down whatever decks were at the top of the metagame. And I think now that they've been at this for a couple of months, it's very clear that while they will adjust top decks when it shows that it's absolutely necessary, they're really using these over-the-air updates to give breathing room to cards that just aren't seeing any play. Even if their buffs don't ultimately push those cards firmly into the metagame, they at least give us these local metagame pockets where we have something exciting and new to explore with that's already in a lot of players' collections. I would love to know what your thoughts are on these round of buff in the comments down below. As always, if you enjoyed my musing on the topic, snap that like button, and hopefully we'll see you back again tomorrow for another excellent video, a deck highlight featuring some of these freshly buffed cards.